Hello, good evening, boys and girls. I thought I would address a serious topic, but look at it from an intelligent and logical fashion. And obviously, only a fat person would have a half-gallon of chocolate milk in his hand before he starts a video. Chocolate moo juice, right? I bet people in California and Europe have probably never heard of that before, calling milk moo juice. Now this is going to be a serious video. We're going to approach it from a logical fashion. Typically, as is the case, some of the best premises for videos and discussions come apart by seeing something that is frankly very skewed and bad. Now I recently watched a video that said the Sony a7R II was what was the title of the video? Oh, the best camera in the world! Jesus Christ, I mean, you gotta be kidding me. It's okay if that's someone's personal opinion. Someone can say, well, I think Oscar Mayer bologna is the best meat in the world. Of course, that's something that, you know, only little children eat, and poor people. I'm not rich at all by any means. I wouldn't mind eating a bologna sandwich. But I thought, you know, realistically, despite the fact that that particular video has a lot of downvotes, because you have to admit, now if someone said that camera is the best mirrorless in the world, yeah, you could say arguably it's extremely high megapixel, it's fast, it's the latest generation of mirrorless iterations. But the statement was made that it's the best camera in the world, and of course camera is a broad encompassing term that we, of course, cannot intelligently say that even if it's our own subjective opinions, or if we're sponsored by that particular company. But this isn't about that video. It just actually gave me an idea to make an intelligent video in rebuttal to the premise of what the best camera in the world is. And obviously we can't pick out one, so bear with me a second. Let's be logical and sensible and then see if we can clarify things, because hyperbolic fallacies cannot be enjoined, meaning so-and-so is the best in the world, this is the best in the world, that's the worst. The whole black and white sort of hyperbolic fallacies that are enjoined by certain mentalities, whether it be religion, metaphysics, or gear sniffing syndrome. So let's take a look at some cameras, but let's first start off with a premise that it doesn't have to be expensive to be the best. I know a lot of people in life that I just shake my head and go, you know, you poor bastard. They have money, or they don't have much money, but they bought the most expensive toy they could. And they think, well, I got the best, and if you don't think it's the best, then it's because you're a poor asshole and you can't afford the good shit like I've gotten. You know, this sort of hobbyist photography nonsense is really very vile and base, and it doesn't help anybody. I mean, what defines a professional photographer, logically and obviously so, as I've stated before, is someone who's a master of composition and light manipulation. Now, after my wife died, of course taking care of her 10 years basically killed me, along with many of other things earlier in life. I guess I had a midlife crisis. I had a lot more money at that time, and I bought a really nice BMW convertible, and it was just hot as shit. I mean, it was the hottest piece of shit on this earth. And I had a cheaper Rolex earlier in life, but I wanted a solid gold Submariner Rolex. Now, I've always actually had these EcoDrive Citizens because they're very durable and they just last forever and they're so reliable. There's nothing better in this world than a Citizen watch. As far as value goes, I mean, it's really hard. You might not like the aesthetics of it, but you know, that damn watch, I mean, unless you bought a winder for it and wore it all the time, you know, you had to stick it on a winder since it's you know, it works off of winding itself by motion, so you gotta be wearing it all the time. I mean, it doesn't keep good time. I mean, obviously it looks like you're loaded, but I mean, I have the speakers blasting on that BMW convertible, cherry red with the chrome trim, and wearing a gold Rolex and stop at the stoplight with all these tattoos, and I could see people looking over and they're going, honey, look at that, it's a drug dealer! I know that's exactly what the hell they were thinking. Of course, I was blasting some pretty girly music. I mean, not tough stuff, but I know that's what they were thinking. But let's get on to the topic of this particular discussion. Now, what is the best camera in the world? Now someone's saying, why isn't the D750 out here? Now I've got a dozen cameras, well 13 now, which is too many. But I'm filming on the D750. That's where it's at right now. That's what's filming my ugly, fat, bald, tattooed ass right now. It's a D750, so it's over there. So why, if we're not going to join hyperbolic fallacies by saying so-and-so is the best camera in the world, like this other video, let's make an intelligent, logical decision so that either you or someone else, or you can help someone else, make an intelligent, logical decision as far as what you're going to be shooting. Now, I have always asked people, what is it that you shoot most? Someone could be a general shooter, in which case the answer is pretty much everything, although nobody shoots everything. And of course, what's your budget? You know, it's the right tool for the right job. Now here I have a Nikon D810. I mean, this with the lens is $5,000. Here I have the old Nikon D3. I mean, it's only a 12 megapixel camera, but plenty of professionals where money is no object are still shooting this camera. I mean, I've got a couple of them myself. It's only a 12 megapixel camera, but it's made like a friggin' tank. And over here we have the much beloved, of which I've recommended to countless people because it's an incredible value right now for $480, a Nikon D7100 with a vertical grip. And over here we have Fuji X-T1. I thought about bringing out the Fuji X-T10, but I only got so much room for so many cameras on this table. Obviously there are certain spectra within Canon that will fulfill either one of these niches. So obviously you can't bring them all out, certainly can't discuss them all within a small video or two. What sort of shooter are you? Are you a nature photographer? Are you a birder? Well, the pixel pitch on the D7100 even beats that of the 50 megapixel new Canon DSLR. So it beats it in pixel pitch, pure information per square millimeter over the 50 megapixel. If this were scaled up at the same pixel pitch, it would be a 56 megapixel camera, as I told you in a prior video. Somebody has a $20,000 500mm f2.8 lens, and money is no object, and they're making their bread and butter off of shooting birds and whatnot, or animals. I mean, why are they shooting this camera instead of something far, far more expensive? So it's the right tool for the right job. Nikon D810, perfect for portrait. Obviously, one of the great advantages of a full frame is a better dynamic range. You don't have the issue with crop factor, especially on wide primes and especially wide zooms like you do on a DX. So that's a couple obvious advantages of full frame. And the Fuji X-T1 over here. Now, this is the camera I always wished that Nikon would make, and of course they don't. Nikon isn't making these sort of mirrorless devices, not in this particular factor. Basically like what the Nikon DF should have been, but wasn't. And this little sucker's on sale for $1,000. I've said the X-T10 is the best value, and that still remains true. I haven't changed from that position, obviously so. I was just shooting a couple days ago with the Fuji X-T10. I just didn't bring it out. So I love that camera as a, you know, a back trails camera, a motorcycle camera, if you will. You know, street, close in the street shots, candids. This is an excellent. There's a world famous photographer, escapes my name right now, that shoots with the X-T1 and X-T10 for. He doesn't do traditional wedding photography, which I did for years and is a real pain in the crotch. It sucks. He does candid wedding photography documentaries. So he does the documentarial wedding photography. Excellent. Like the Nikon D3, all-weather indestructible beast, has certain output. You have to ask yourself also, too, what is the workflow? Like the Nikon D810, I mean, I've got a quad-core processor computer back there with 32 gig of RAM. I mean, it's just faster than hell, but working with the 36 megapixel RAW files, although it's a lot faster in Iridium, working with those files, the workflow is just, you know, it's like someone's got your nuts in a vice. I mean, it's a pain in the crotch. So we have to ask ourselves the question, what it is that we're going to do. What is the best tool for the job? Because each one has its own attributes. Mirrorless obviously has its limitations, low light issues. I mean, nobody's using them for action and sports. I think one person is, because they're sponsored. But none of the mirrorless shots from sports action photography are being published that I know of, except for maybe one person. You know, the rest of the people on the sidelines with DSLRs are laughing their ass off. So the mirrorless cameras are really not good for low light, and they're not good for action sports. And the flash ecosystem, which is so incredibly important for photojournalistic work and wedding work, and especially studio work, sucks. I mean, doesn't matter if it's a Sony or a Fuji. The ecosystem for strobist work is decent, but it still pretty much sucks. I mean, Nikon has been cranking their ass on that for 60 years. And Phony, Phony, I meant Sony, I just started, a couple of years ago. They've really got nothing. I mean, they don't have anything. Speedlight was, and it's just nothing. I mean, Nikon blows the shit out of everybody in their ecosystem for their speedlights and their strobe integration, especially for TTL. And God, I mean, you can't do that with that Fuji. I can do what I was showing you in prior videos with it, but it has its limitations. Obviously and logically so, and I know that. A cheap camera is obviously more lenses. That's the best camera in the world for someone on a budget. So if someone owns a Nikon D3000 or D5000, the cheap camera, to them, is the best camera in the world, because the camera is nothing. I mean, you have to have a decent ecosystem as far as what your setup is, and that's having some lenses and some speedlights. If someone can afford to buy a really nice DSLR, but there's no money left for lenses or anything else, and they've got a great camera, but they can't do a damn thing with it. It's like having a car without gasoline. You can't go anywhere with the damn thing. Someone for shooting for income, whether it's weddings or PJ work or anything else, the best is the best. Shoot for the moon, because cost be damned. You can write it off on your taxes as well. I mean, the best camera is free. It's a tax write-off, at least here in the United States it is. So there is no best camera, rather the best photographer who knows which tool to grab for which job. I mean, that certainly is the answer. Neither one of these are best, and they're all best. And I'm not using, well, you only got those cameras out here. What about that camera, this camera? I mean, why the hell, let's not get into that. I can only put so many of my damn cameras on this table here. So there is no best camera. Now, it can't be argued that Nikon has the best overall ecosystem on Earth as far as its system. I mean, just cheap-ass lenses that are all over the damn place, really good ones. I used to shoot Canon ages and ages ago for a while, but I mean, I always despised the fact, and this is irrefutable, that Canon has two types of lenses. They've got the really, really good stuff that's very expensive that pros shoot for action and some portraiture stuff, and they're expensive and they're great lenses, but they have this huge section of real cheap shit consumer lenses, and I always hated that about Canon. And it's actually gotten even worse. I mean, it used to be they're kind of like this, and now they're like that. I mean, you got the really good Canon lenses, and over here you got all this shitty consumer crap that if you look at it the wrong way, it'll take a crap on itself. So what's the best? I mean, I wanted to use that video that I watched that I thought was very funny, and I'm not trashing the video. If someone feels that way about a camera, that's fine. But I mean, it's pathetic to say something, this is the best camera in the world. Like I said, the Lamborghini is the best car in the world. I mean, not necessarily so, but I mean, kind of so. But I mean, the Lamborghini, I don't know if you've ever driven one, but I certainly have. They are absolute shit until you hit about 40 miles an hour. I mean, that thing, if you're in stop-and-go traffic, anybody who owns a Lamborghini will tell you that you do not want to be in stop-and-go traffic with that piece of shit, or heading to the grocery store with it, because it's a piece of crap. So the best of the best means nothing, because it all has its own spectrum of specificity where it is the best. Okay? This is the case, the right tool for the right job. They all have their own spectrum of usefulness. You have to ask about durability, ergonomics, peak intention of the camera, the ecosystem, the attribute flexibility, the raw workflow. Do you have the skills in the computer to choke down those huge raw files? So all these are considerations you need to take into what it is your budget is, what you're going to be shooting, and does it fit within that spectrum? I mean, it's like saying one shoe is the best shoe in the world. Well, you got hiking shoes, and you got sandals and flip-flops, and they're all best for their own spectrum of intention. And cameras are no damn different, okay? So consider that, and let's not fall for hyperbolic fallacies, okay? If you like this video, drop me a buck or two, go tell me to jump off a cliff, whatever makes you the most happy. Catch you later. Bye.